you. Looks like we have a great crowd tonight. I really appreciate everyone coming out. We hope to get started here in just a couple of minutes. In case anyone of your friends misses this event, we will have this videotaped. Nick is going to be videotaping it, and then probably in about a week or so, we'll try to get on the website. We'll also have, starting tomorrow, we'll have the PowerPoint presentation with all the information also available on the website. So again, you can either refer to that if you like, starting tomorrow, or tell your friends about it. That'd be great. This evening, I'd like to welcome everybody, first of all, and I think we have almost a full crowd here. So we have over 75 people, 80 people here tonight, and that's great. This is the biggest attendance we've had in a town hall without any refreshments in a couple of years. There is going to be it's okay. So in 2 weeks we are going to have another town hall. That's going to be 2 weeks from today. That's March 23rd, and then the following day will be March 24th, a board meeting. And at that board meeting, they're actually going to be voting on, what the assessments are going to be for next year. The goal for the 23rd is to let everybody know exactly what's going on within the community, as well as what's going on with cost associated with it, as well as other communities surrounding us. So we'll have some pretty good information. We will have refreshments at that meeting, so if we could get 200 or 300 people, that'd be fantastic. I'd like to, first of all, introduce everybody, if I might. First person I'd like to introduce is Captain Manny Del Toro. He's going to be the first speaker tonight. Then we have Matt Kruger with Ranch and Coast Alarm. Corey in the back, I think everyone knows Corey, your Director of Operations. Javier, our Security Manager. Then we have James with Securitas. James is, are you the VP, Area Manager, something like that? District Manager. And then we have Gary in the back. Gary is a senior volunteer person who actually comes through this community as well as others on a regular basis in a police car. So that really helps us have the presence within the community. Even if a policeman can't be here, these guys are here to help out. Next I have Gretchen. Gretchen Pagnotta is on our board of directors. Jean on our board. The other folks are either on vacation or they're having some medical issues going on right now, but for the most part, I think that's pretty much it. Alan Pagnotta. Alan is he's our ad hoc safety committee chairman. And pretty much it. Alan Pagnotta. Alan is he's our ad hoc safety committee chairman. And I think we have Steve is also on that. Steve Kirsch will be talking in a minute. Milan, she's also on our ad hoc safety committee. Jack, who's not able to be here today, is also on that committee right now. So with that, I'd like to have Captain Del Toro come up and tell us what's going on with the burglaries that are happening and all the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff.
Well, the last meeting was fun because I was able to get up here and say that, yeah, well, our community hasn't been hit. So, and I think I jinxed that because several weeks later, unfortunately, Mr. Kirsch's place was hit. So let me just give you a little overview on what's been going on. So since December 1st, the whole area, meaning Northwestern Division, South End, like Sereno Valley Parkway, down there, Sereno Valley Boulevard, North End, over around Via del Valle, the beach on the west side, and then out by Del Norte High School. Between all that area, which encompasses Northwestern Division, we've had 23 burglaries. So you've heard different things going on as far as the type of burglaries, the news. We actually have got on the news. NBC gave us some coverage. Also on the Mexican channel, Univision gave us some coverage as well. La Jolla's been getting hit pretty hard. The other night, luckily we didn't have any in our area, but I'll tell you about some of our efforts that we've been doing as well. We've got several groups that are going on. So I'll give you just a little update on what's going on. So I'm going to pass out, these are basically these be on the lookout flyers, and you can pass, I only have 10 of them, but you can pass those around. If you do see that vehicle, especially this one, let us know about it, because that's the one that's very recent. A few nights ago, we were chasing it around, and unfortunately, it gave us the okie doke, meaning that got away from us, from our units that are out there. But this crew, this is going to be your lower end, your sloppy guys that are out and about. And this, I think, it's Littleton. Did I get that correct? So we had another case here. The good thing is we've only had 2 cases in this area within the last, yours was 2022?
Correct.
Okay, so about middle part of the year. So it's still unacceptable that we did have, but not South American crew there. So out of the 23, 5 are going to be the South American crew. So the difference between the two is some of our locals, and this is Ms. Littleton, on your case, I'll hand out the flyer that was passed out, which I'll show you how it all ties in. So most of them are going to be these copycat, low-level guys. These are going to approach on the street, and what they leave behind are clues for us to follow. So now we got a far better chance of catching these guys. So on Ms. Littleton's, we believe we have 1 in custody. The way that case developed, and it took a while from last year. These flyers go out to everybody in Southern California. We send them out to Phoenix because for some reason a lot of our criminals like to go out there, and also to Las Vegas. They go out there as well. So within the last month on Ms. Littleton's case, one of the 2 suspects, and it was also credit to your security staff here who gave us a plate, security footage from the front door, which helped us identify him, but especially the plate. I think, was that one of your license plate readers up here?
That was just a regular camera that we were able to figure out the license plate.
Yeah, so that was huge. So that, I mean, on those kind of cases, which are most of them are, we'll be able to do some follow-up on. And so the way that case evolved is a month ago, we get a call from Las Vegas and said, hey, we think we have one of your guys identified. We're able to tie them to that car. So we submitted the case to the district attorney's office for prosecution. We believe we're going to be successful on 1, and then there's a second suspect who's identified and just not, charges haven't been filed. So we're waiting on some DNA, so we're very optimistic on that. As far as the items that were taken, probably not, especially, Las Vegas. I mean, actually, they have Pawn Stars just right there. I mean, they could, I'm sure that stuff's been offloaded, although probably not through a pawn shop, because we actually have a little bit of reach on the items there, and some checks and balances on them getting rid of the stuff. But anyway, that's how these cases evolved. Now, out of those 23 that I mentioned earlier, 5 are going to be that South American group. Now, on Mr. Hirsch's case, we believe that's going to be the South American group. It almost like they timed that perfectly from the time you left. There's no footage from any of the front, so none of the sloppy work that was left on some of these flyers. And looking at the area of approach, that park makes it a perfect spot it's Sunday night. I went over there to that park just before coming here. It's super packed right now. Would have been plenty of witnesses, so probably, I mean, they waited till Sunday where nothing goes on in the park. They went and hit the property, went in through the back door, they're smashing the rear windows, and they're in and out in a hurry. And you guys weren't gone for more than 2-3 hours? Yeah, so anyway, they're in and out. On some of these, even on some of these copycats, they're in and out of these places 15-20 minutes at most. They get into safes. It looks like they pried their way and used some kind of tools to get into the safes and got the items out of there. So now on the South American theft group, we're doing some things, some high-tech stuff as far as geofence warrants. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but everywhere your cell phone is, it has a footprint. So because we have a we have a very narrow time window on when that happened. All of the cell phone activity around there, we're picking up, and we have to try to find the connection between that one and any other ones, and then Google will give us more information. It's a several-step process, which will eventually lead us to cell phone numbers, and then the last step is going to be the subscriber info on the cell phone. Now, some of the ways that the South Americans operate is from our partners at FBI, is that unfortunately, they only use their cell phone for one mission, and then they dump them. Vehicles, one mission, and then they dump them. And they actually rotate personnel from South America. They come in on passenger or the visa, the vacation or tourist visas. They're here for a short time and then they're gone. The last time that we were close to them, we got one address in Palmdale. Follow up there with the assistance of other agencies revealed it was just a drop house, and they were just rotating personnel, and they were committing burglaries all over Southern California. And our last one, we were just updated last week from Torrance PD. They actually made an arrest of 2 individuals, and they were actually using cameras. They found a camera on the premises of the place that they targeted. So they were alerted when the family left, and they'd be alerted when they come back. So that's the highest end of the burglaries. That's going to be your group of 5. Your other ones that you're seeing here, we're seeing them walking through the neighborhood. Some of them are pretty good. We have a male and female team that have hit the western end of Mira Mesa, and we have 2 of them, outlier cases. They did their burglaries at 1 in the afternoon and 3 in the afternoon. Primary target times that they're hitting is between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. We don't have anything outside of those times. Our most recent one was reported last night. Family was on vacation, but through some home surveillance that they had, we were able to pinpoint the time of that burglary over off of Via de la Valle at 7:30 p.m. They were in and out in a hurry. They approached from the rear through a canyon, so there's no video footage that we have here, so that we believe that's going to be a South American case. As far as some of the things that you can do, is definitely secure that rear perimeter as best you can. I think there's going to be a gentleman speaking to you about how they're getting into and shattering that glass door. I know that some of them are some new tactics, or they're able to do that without making noise. There's certain tools that they use there, but surveillance and also would be a good way to go. Anything audible that would alert your neighbors, and if everybody's on the same page when you hear that certain alarm, I mean, it's pretty basic. Is that they were alerted to motion in the house, and the family or the residents were able to notify us immediately where we can set up on it. The closest that we got, unfortunately, they had a caretaker at the house. There was a language issue on them not feeling comfortable to call 911 at the time. So what they did is they were alerted, so they knew what was going on. They saw movement in the house, but they drove 30 minutes over to the house, and then they called 911. So you had about a 40-minute lead time. However, we did recover some items in the canyon, but they did the same MOs, and we think that's the South American threat group. In response, some of the things we're doing is Gary, with our retired senior volunteers, have been doing a great job right across the way at Santa Monica. We have one of the residents there was hit. We believe that was going to be a South American group approach through an isolated area, through window smash. One of their responses is they developed a block by block, I mean, kind of a quasi-neighborhood watch, of getting to know each other, letting each other know when somebody's gone. But I don't know how many fold over, but we do vacation checks where if, with your permission, the volunteers will go out, they'll do a perimeter check, keep an eye on your place, and I know that you guys have even alerted them of other stuff that's going on.
We call it in, and a couple of officers will come out and do a run through of the house and make sure that there's nothing disturbed, and it's just an open door, or if there was, then they're right there to do it. Charge.
Yeah, so that's big. So Gary, how do they get a vacation home check? How do they get on the list for that? Here, I'll give you the mic if you can just go over that real quick.
Yeah. We do vacation checks throughout our area, which is down Mira Mesa all the way up through here, all the way out to Del Norte, up parts of Del Mar and so on. And the easiest way to do it is to go on to sandiego.gov. There's a little space in there, it says search, put down vacation house check, and it will just right away pull up the area. It says, if you want a house check, fill out this form. The form is right there, and it's one of these you just fill out online, hit submit, it goes to the area. Just mark this little place up there where what division, just it will be Northwestern. So it's very simple to do. They've got it down now online, so we don't have to call it in or anything like that. And it's very specific in just the dates that you're going and the dates that you're coming back. And preferably the time. We had one gentleman coming back today at 6 p.m., so we were there to check his house about 11 a.m. to make sure that there was nothing going on. So each and every day we check them, except that's Monday through Friday.
So that's over Santa Monica, that was their response, and their workload increased quite a bit. So right now what we're doing, I mean, our normal staffing levels is 4 officers for that whole area that I just talked about earlier. However, what we've done lately, we've tripled that between the hours of 5 and 10 p.m. So we're throwing a lot of resources and officers at the problem right now. So right now I have we have plainclothes individuals, detectives that are out there. They're spotting around. They're calling in any suspicious vehicles and I also have 4 marked units. They're single person units, individual cars. They're out doing stops and trying to catch these guys in the act, which, I mean, ideally it would be a long shot, but you never know, and we figured we're not going to be successful if we don't even try. So that's what we're doing on our end as well. Also, we don't have them yet, but we have license plate readers and street cameras are on the way. So that's going to be a plus. What that'll do is, because they're hitting the homes, so we can hit the main thoroughfares where our license plate readers are going to be set up. One thing I will tell you, it seems like the Gaslamp quarter got all the resources. We only have 11 cameras that are going to go up this summer. So the initial wave is going to be 500 cameras citywide. I mean, we're pushing for more. So I talked to the head of the project, and they said, have them go through their city council because they're the ones that are doing the ultimate approval, and make a little noise to get some more resources up here and quicker, because that'll help us on the end of catching them. And also, if you go to the city's website, there's a lot of if you have questions, or you can ask me tonight. But that's what's going on the burglary front. I will say that despite us getting hit recently, I mean, we are still, as far as an entire community, on the end of catching them. And also, if you go to the city's website, there's a lot of if you have questions, or you can ask me tonight. But that's what's going on the burglary front. I will say that despite us getting hit recently, I mean, we are still, as far as an entire community, for as large as this community is, with all your efforts on the security side and all the internal plans that you guys are doing, I mean, we're still doing good, but I mean, except for, Mr. Kirsch, feel terrible about that one. And even then, I mean, you weren't even on vacation, you were just gone for a few hours. And I think the detective said you were telling him there was a new resident, and you were telling him how safe the area was, and that night you were getting hit. So, yeah, irony all the way around on that. So that's all I have as far as information. I don't know if there's any preliminary questions, or if you want to address that now or at the end.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, sir.
How much sharing of the DOLs is done with the sheriffs? And the reason I ask the question is that I do SVP.
Mm-hmm.
And we check our DOLs, and Gary, I think you and I talked before. We check our DOLs at the beginning of every shift, and there is nothing on the ones that you shared with us tonight in our binder. So I don't know if that can be coordinated a little bit more with the 4S station or not. it probably, the more eyes that you've got, the better off you are.
Oh, I agree. So these BOLs, they go out on it's a county-wide system. If you probably heard the term ARGIS, it goes on to the BOLs to all of them. So it would be incumbent on the detective at that area station to spread that
Okay,
along.
I'll talk to our.
Yeah, talk to them, just have any BOL list, I think, for Northeastern Division and for us, and even La Jolla, because that's the same suspect group that's hitting. We had a success story actually today from our guys that we had a DNA hit. Unfortunately, it took 10 months for the DNA to come back, but it was tied to a group of guys that they have done 20 burglaries out in East County and the Poway area. As far west as Poway, but they've hit Alpine, parts of El Cajon, and we're able to tie 2 of our cases in. They were doing commercial burglaries. So have your detective, but I mean, if we have a contact, we can shoot them to you directly.
Well, I'm sure our admin can download them.
Yeah, just have them give you the BOL so that you guys can be out, because these guys are out, even on the one, I don't know if you were responsible for it, but the one today off of Via de la Valle, detectives already told me that you guys gave them a good contact, a good lead on video, and so they were out already downloading video. So they were able to at least, they went from not knowing when it happened over the last 2 weeks, now we know it happened Sunday at 7:30, based on a little bit of video that we got through your help. Yes, ma'am.
You said something about the burglars are using cameras to see when you come and go.
Yes,
Like setting cameras out.
they actually, yes, the one on the BOL that we got from Be on the Lookout from Torrance PD was just putting it out to all groups in Southern California, just to show how sophisticated they are, is they tracked down a camera that they had set up. It was in the bushes to show when they left their driveway and when they came back. So yes, they're pretty. And this is going to be the South American group. These other low-end guys, the ones that left us clues on these BOLs, no. But yes, there is a group that are doing. There's even, in addition to cameras, we've actually found on 2 cases in Southern California where the vehicles had these low-level trackers. So that somebody's monitoring it, you know, if you put a tracker on the vehicle, when they're gone, they get the alert, oh wow, hey, they left, and they can even get the warning on when they're coming back. So yeah, they are doing that elaborate of a system. So that's where these guys come in. We don't expect these guys to catch them in the act, but we can catch them when they're doing their preliminary kind of setup, their surveillance, and their intel gathering on you, us, the victims. And it's everywhere. I mean, there's even, not the South Americans, but we found a group of kids. They're out selling magazines in certain areas, but we believe that they were, in fact, it was your van description that led us to them on your camera system, which has been, we have great communication with your security here, that we're communicating weekly and getting stuff, but what they were doing is they were sending out kids, teenagers, talking about, you know, save money for college, whatever the story. I even had one at my house. I live down in Chula Vista. They were down there, he got a clipboard of something, but when we didn't answer on the Ring camera, he's over there trying the door to make sure. So there's a lot of opportunists that are out. Those are the low-level guys, but the high-level guys, they're using the trackers and they're setting up cameras at people's homes. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, the other night, maybe I think 2 or 3 nights ago, I saw drones flying over the community, like sunset. And I see that on a regular basis, and I'm wondering if they're also involved with drone surveillance.
They possibly could. We don't have any evidence of that. However, it's very, very possible that they have. Or I don't know if we have any. I know it's been talked about as far as drones here. I don't know if that is going on. But yeah, I mean, it's not ours, but it very well could be the.
Well, my question is, I mean, how do you, as a citizen, identify the drone, or figure out where, whatever, and how?
Yeah, on something like that, it would just be calling it in. One thing that has increased from our meetings such as this is our calls on responding for suspicious activity. So the one good thing that we have a lot of area to cover. We have a few officers, but we do have, because our theft and our cases are still few and far between, comparatively speaking, to the rest of the city. We don't have any violent incidents, so our officers do have time to check suspicious activity. A drone flying around overhead is definitely worthy of us going up there and checking.
Is it legal to fly a drone over a community?
Well, I would say no. However, it's one of those, and I think, probably Javier, when you come up, he's received the most recent education on some of the regulations of that. But we do respond to drone calls, and because we believe that they are casing the area. And there's really no justification for flying over somebody else's yard. It's still an invasion of your privacy and worth us looking into.
So what number do we call?
The normal, if it's a crime in progress, something urgent, where you find somebody's in the house, that's going to be a 911,
But
crime in
suspicious
progress.
activity.
And then the non-emergency line is going to be the 619-531-2000. Now, I will say, and this happened just the other night at Santa Monica, I understand that sometimes you're going to wait for a long time on that. If that ever happens, you can give me a call directly. It was a resident right across the street. I always have the schedule of who's working at any given time. It's real easy for me to call the on-duty sergeant, bypass all that, because what happens on that 531-2000 is you're competing with everybody in the city. So if it's, you know, things are going crazy there, shooting in Southeastern Division, crap up here, I have no problem responding, and at least, I mean, that's easy enough for me to get on the phone and let one of my sergeants know to come out and give you guys a hand with that. 619-980-0219.
It will be on the video.
And it'll be, yeah, and if you guys can put that out, that would be great as well. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned break-ins were happening from the back. Can you describe a little bit more how they're breaking? I mean, are they breaking, you know, like doors that have, pieces?
In between, no, what they're doing is they're hitting doors that are basically all glass, and they're shattering those.
And what about huge sliding glass?
Those are, yeah, primarily, if you give if that's the case, then they're especially hitting those, they're hitting French, basically are all glass, and they're shattering those.
And what about huge sliding glass?
Those are, yeah, primarily, if you give if that's the case, then they're especially hitting those, they're hitting French doors, anything, or any big window big enough for them to get in is what they're hitting.
And you mentioned that they were using something that didn't trigger sound, so does that mean the glass break detector?
That actually I learned from Matt. Matt may have more information on that. Possible. I mean, but it wouldn't take more than a rock or anything solid to break the window. Is what they're doing.
What do we have for Fairbanks Ranch? Are they getting hit as well?
I don't know. The Fairbanks Ranch has not been, to my knowledge, because we keep pretty close contact. What's that?
Victor, yeah.
Actually,
They had two
they,
That's the county.
yeah, they've had 4,
4? Okay.
and all 4 were the Chilean group.
Chilean. Okay. Going through the rear. Okay.
You mentioned tracking places on cars and cameras in the bushes. Is there any sense for how they're tracking those people, or why they're targeting those particular people?
They're targeted basically from, just looking at the type of target, looking at the activity of the house. Many of the individuals that they hit are on vacation. Other individuals they hit just when they leave. That's something about that 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. where you figured if they're going to go out to dinner, go out and run some errands, taking the kids to their gymnastics class, any other items, school events, meetings. They're basically just looking for that type of
In order to
activity.
get the community, is there a sense for, are they coming in and looking over everything, and any sense of how they're determining what target this might be?
They're viewing, like for example, on Mr. Kirsch's place, I was looking, your place is very, very visible from the park. And I would say there's another one, I want to say Rancho Pacifica is another one. They hit the ones on the ends, and the way they approached that when they went on, I think it's Derby Downs, and when that neighborhood ends, there's a dead end, and there's a real small fence that it wouldn't take much to even look over. They watch it for 15, 20 minutes. They don't see any activity. They can go in and get out in a hurry. On this side, yes.
Hi, my question is, This has been happening in the last few years, and as more community and the city and as a state, we've been really reacting to this problem versus preventative. The issue you spoke earlier to is the program ESTA, which allows tourists to come in and tour the country for a 90-day without a granted visa, and that has been used, or at least the federal government is talking about, that has been used as a war crime where they're touring, they're hitting, they're just leaving. Is there anything that you guys are doing as the police force, and from a policy level that can perhaps stop that program? I mean, we already have a hard enough time. We're the only country that I know of that when we leave this country, we don't actually check visa whether it's expired or not. So the fact that, you know, I don't know how we follow through and have people leave after 90 days, we don't really have those kind of programs in place. But encouraging, making sure that they qualify for a visa coming to the country would be a good, just, you know, a barrier to prevent that. Is there anything you can process that is in progress in terms of in place so we can remove that program, or?
On our end, in fact, I know that there's laws in place that prohibits us from even talking. I mean, when I worked Southern Division, I couldn't even be seen talking to a Border Patrol agent or a Customs agent, because there really is a lot of parameters where we can only enforce state laws. We don't get involved in any of that, but any influence that you have through our lawmakers, that would be definitely offer some possible solutions on that. But unfortunately, we don't get involved in any of the visa process, any of those kind of things.
But I'm sorry, one more question. Because it's a non-violent crime, right? Because you're not hurting anyone, it's really considered a low offense. So if I've heard some people, you know, they caught some people over in this neighborhood got off of Carmel Valley Road up here, and they were caught and they were let go a couple of days later with bail. And then these guys came back and hit again, like, you know, a couple of weeks later. So my question is, like, when you actually capture them, when you, as the police, when you catch these criminals, what can you do? Do you just keep them to bail is posted, and then they're on their way, or? We as officers, we catch them, we submit them. We have zero control, unfortunately, over how long they stay in, or what kind of sentences they get. And again, I would say that we used to do a lot of proactive things, but I guess since the jail population has decreased, normally we would target, I guess, individuals that were likely to commit crime, which we identified as our narcotics users. Many of narcotics laws are very, very watered down, so we can't use that as a tool because the way the theory is that not every burglar, not every violent criminal, well, not every person that's affiliated with drugs is generally also affiliated with other criminal activity, like the theft to support the drugs, other illegal activities. So we would hit them on the drug offenses. However, yeah, those laws have been greatly watered down. So we are really very limited to catching them, very reactive on the theft things. And as far as how long they stay in, then yeah, that's going to be. Cases are going to trial now, but none of those are in custody while they're awaiting trial. They're out and about, and who knows how many other burglaries they may have committed. Yes, sir?
How do you know you're a Chilean, and what?
While they're awaiting trial. They're out and about, and who knows how many other burglaries they may have committed. Yes, sir? Who knows how many other burglaries they may have committed. Yes, sir?
How do you know you're a Chilean, and what information do you have? Did you caught any? How did you get it?
Here in San Diego, no. The information that we get on that is, I know in Orange County they've been successful, and they catch them. They've debriefed individuals in Texas, in Florida, and different parts of the country. This is all bits and pieces from the very few individuals that have been caught from that, and also individuals that they have spoken to abroad and in cooperation with other governments as well.
Has there been physical violence with any of the burglaries you're talking about in other states?
No, in every one. In fact, to my knowledge, or the individuals, last summer, there was an individual, over on the west part of our area. He was actually home, Army veteran, had a weapon in the house. They broke the window, he drew his weapon, confronted them, they immediately turned and ran. That's probably the closest we had, but there have not been any violence associated with them. When there is somebody that is in the house, or they hear a noise and now the noise is gone, they have turned and ran every way, and yeah, they haven't engaged in any violence at all. Yet, right.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're focusing on prevention. We have decided we're going to leave the television on when we go out. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think, yeah, any signs that there's somebody home, if you have lights, if your lights on timers, you know, I mean, that's another idea that's been floating around. Motion sensors on the backyard, where the backyard will light up, maybe some rings that would make audible to at least alert your neighbors, to let them know, or, you know, a recording that says, you've been identified. I'm sure that they're going to take the avenue of least resistance. On all these homes that they've been successful, they've had very little deterrence at all. And on some of them, unfortunately, there was unlocked doors, security systems that are in place, but they weren't armed at the time. So, you know, we unfortunately, we go through these lulls of where nothing happens, and we get a little complacent. And unfortunately, they're very successful at picking out the targets where they have a high probability of getting out, in and out undetected. Yes, ma'am.
So I heard the Santa Monica burglary, though, had cameras going, alarm systems ringing, and a dog barking. Is that accurate? That's
not the dog barking, not the alarm ringing. However, as far as, I mean, lights, there is some surveillance because they were able to get some footage back there, but as far as anything that was audible and loud, no, that's was not the case. Gary, do you remember any other details from Santa Monica? We were there from that meeting. But there was a small window, just like Mr. Kirsch. It was a very narrow window. They left for just a few hours in the evening. They were in and out on the back door. But yeah, no dogs, no audible alarm.
Just, you know, something to ask, Captain said, have some type of something going on in the house as you leave, maybe go out for dinner. Myself, I always leave my television on, just so there's a noise there.
Great idea.
Maybe somebody is there and so on. And at night, if we're going on vacation or something, I'll put a little lamp in the bathroom and with a timer on it. And usually at night, you don't see any lights, but there's a light on in the bathroom, it always signifies somebody's home. So, you know, it's just a couple of things like that. Start with the simple, you know, and then kind of work your way up.
Yeah, the one consistent factor on all these targets, it was very obvious that there was something that nobody was home. That on these, either through the inactivity, they could have been personally watching as well. So, you know, they definitely take notes and do their intel. Yes,
Some neighborhoods have neighborhood watch.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a deterrent, or has that been effective at your?
I think so. I know Santa Monica, there's definitely a consistency with a close group neighborhood. I do that in my neighborhood. If you trust your folks that are surrounding you, we let them know. I mean, does that make us partly vulnerable because, hey, now somebody knows? But these are neighbors we've known for years. We trust them, and we've been successful so far.
Lines up or down when you're gone?
Again, you know, it's there's no set way. There's no set way. The argument is if it's open, they clearly can see, you know, what's going on inside, and if there's nothing there, it won't take them long. Blinds down will leave at least the mystery that, you know, maybe somebody's home. So I would say the less information you can give them with any certainty would be the best. Anybody else?
So with all the modern technology, it's a two-way sword, or a double-edged sword. A lot of it's being used against us, but there's a lot of things that are in our advantage. Alexa, if you have it, if you trust it, whatever the controversy is about that, it can play sounds of people talking randomly. It sounds like people are at home. You can set that to trigger automatically at random times of the night and it does sound like there are people in the house. You can also program your smart lights to turn on and off, not at exactly specific times each night, because that is pretty obvious, but random times, on and off. With ring cameras, you can get ring path lights that go down to the street, which triggers the cameras to start recording early as soon as any one of those smart lights senses motion. And another thing that people do, and obviously also in the military, we get lectured about this all the time. OPSEC, operational security. Don't be announcing on Facebook that you're about to go on vacation. So,
I know, true.
yeah. So if anyone wants to learn more about like the smart home stuff, I mean, there's so much that's available at such cheap costs now. Happy to talk about it now.
Yeah, agreed. Success, just a success story. I mean, in my son's Little League in North Park, we were getting hit. We put very low-level motion sensors. It was the homeless that was breaking into the snack bar. And all last season, we didn't get hit because we put some very low-level security stuff up there. And all it is lighting and motion detectors.
I hear and understand that there's some film you can put on your windows. Is that very effective? That it takes them longer to break through the window or something? Or?
Yes, I will say, what community was this? There was a gentleman was hit over in the preserve, the area of the preserve on the other side of the 56. The way she got in, somehow they didn't get much, but they shattered a window. So what he did, he made some modifications to his windows. They came back again, and they were not able to defeat his windows on that time. And then he upgraded his security. In fact, when he went on a vacation home checks, I don't know if it was you, but they were walking the perimeter, and the gentleman says, "Hey, thank you for checking my house." And you guys were startled that they were out there. So this was a system. And he admits he went on vacation, and he says, "I got this great system, but I just didn't arm it." So when he armed it, then he was even able to see the volunteers out there doing their checks. So that's always just a basic, OPSEC, basic fundamental thing to implement. Gary, I don't know how long are sticking around, and yeah, feel free to call me, even if there's something that you want to discuss, or have you guys started your security surveys to kind of assess security systems? Okay, that's another thing too. We can come out, our community relations officer who's at another community meeting tonight. The concern's all over, so that's a plus, is that the community is definitely more aware. I'm like to attribute it to our extra officers, but a couple nights ago is when we started. Tuesday was our first night of getting our extra officers out and about. We had, that night when our officers were out, we had 2 burglaries in La Jolla and another one over in Eastern Division, a little bit east of the 15 over off Santaluz Road, some big burglaries. So if they're doing their intel gathering and they see our officers out there, which, I mean, we've 200% increase on the people that we put out there, I think, there's a good chance. So hopefully that will deter as well. But yeah, there is no substitute. Neighborhood Watch, I think, is a good program. I think a lot of these low-level ideas, low-cost ideas that you're implementing here can definitely make it tough, because the one common denominator is the ones where they're successful, they've had very little resistance, very little detection on them. And the ones where we did get some evidence, Miss Littleton's, it took a while, but we were successful with catching them in Vegas, because these low-level guys, they're going to slip up at some point. It's the South American group that's going to be tough to catch.
Thank you, Captain. And I do want to say that these guys come through on a regular basis, especially since Captain Del Toro's been here. He's made sure that we've had a lot of police presence within the community, and we really think that helps us well, very much. The next person up is Brianne Littleton. She had a burglary back in June, I think June of last year, and she's going to speak briefly about her experiences.
Thank you. So the little page is passed around. This is our house.
Oh no.
My name is Brianne Littleton. My husband Brian and I moved in 2020. And I'll just kind of give a little short story of our robbery and kind of focus it in terms of what worked, the good, and maybe the not so good, what didn't work, and then personal lessons we've learned from it, and then maybe some community lessons, if you will. It was June 29th of 2020. We were in Chicago, which is where our other house is. However, my sister was a permanent resident in our house here, so it was inhabited. She happened to be out of town for work that day. It was the middle of the day. My neighbor had just been washing his car and didn't notice any of this, but in the mid-11s, around 11 a.m., so it can happen at a different time. We were the non-Chilean people. So 11:30-ish, they came through the south gate, and closer to 12:30-ish is when they made entry into our home. What worked is that we have a fully monitored, fully set up cameras, security, etc. So when that glass broke, I was returning a pair of sneakers and got the alert and instantly was speaking with our security company. They instantly got on the phone with the police, and then my next step was to call Javier's team. So we knew right away. If I didn't have that, it would have been when my sister came home the next day that she found it like that. So I'm really grateful that we had that in place, especially since we knew we were gone most of the summer. I could tell that it was a robbery just based on all the motion, like sensors that were going off throughout the house. They went kind of everywhere, but focused on the master bedroom and our office, which was empty. In the master bedroom, they took my not very valuable jewelry, rooted through my really not valuable purses, and took our empty safe. It was not bolted down, but it was pretty heavy, and it was new, so it was empty. So joke's on them for the empty safe, but they did in the meantime drag it out and scratch up our limestone floors. So that's a pain. How did they get in to our house? They got in through our French doors. They were locked. The brake triggered, the alarm to go off, but once they broke the glass, they could just reach in, unlock, and they're in. So that's bad. And we have like 5 sets of those doors, so we were immediately feeling like, great, we're just these surface bolts at the top and the bottom, so that if somebody comes back, they not only have to break at the handle, they have to break at the top and the bottom because the panes are all separate. So that was our deterrent there. They figured it'd be a little more difficult. But as you see in the picture, they weren't shy. They didn't hide their faces from the camera. You can see it right there. They drove right up and pulled up to drag our safe out the front door. I'm seeing all the alerts go off. Javier's team, Javier himself, they were on their way out the north gate toward the north gate as he was coming up to our house. So what worked, Javier got to our place right away. I mean, they were in and out in like 11 minutes. So it was quick. Javier got there and sat there and made sure that nothing else was going on. And we have footage of them going out. What didn't work so well is how they got into the community. They went through the guest lane and there was no check, no entry. No check, no entry.
How could that happen?
Nothing.
How could that happen?
I won't answer that one, but that security guard I know
I want
was.
to know how that happened, because we have to call and I've had people come and they won't even let them.
I know. Trust me, I've
We lived in Fairbanks Ranch for a long time. You would never get in.
I ruminated on that a little bit, but now I'm kind of on the other side of that and looking at it. That person was fired, so I'm glad and okay. I'm glad and okay.
I'll put on that real quick. Obviously, we were immediately, when we learned of it, immediately transparent that my guy at the Southgate did nothing what he's supposed to do to vet that person for, I mean, he says, well, I thought it was an Amazon driver, but you should confirm that. So yes, we fired him. We were completely responsible for letting that vehicle in.
We have.
A critical thing that Ms. Littleton isn't saying, though, is thanks to the footage that she got from her camera system at home, we were able to find out that it's a black Cadillac CTS. Then we later knew we're looking for a black Cadillac CTS. Then we were able to find that footage later on the Northgate camera, where you can see by the time the alarm enunciated, she got contacted by the monitoring company. They called 911. They called us. My patrolman is leaving the Northgate as that black Cadillac CTS is exiting. I mean, they literally crossed paths. Of course, at that point, we had no clue it was a black Cadillac CTS that was happening. But thanks to that footage.
So I wasn't saying that to like be inflammatory, but to kind of circle back on the point that, like, yes, the guards should do their job. And, you know, full stop there. But we can help them do their job a little easier if, I mean, I went through right away and then started editing my guest list. Like, we don't think it was an inside job, because if they would have known that there was really nothing to get in that side of our house, so, and they didn't even go to my husband's golf simulator and take all of his equipment, so they definitely didn't know the house. But I went through and updated my guest list, and I do a lot better at adding people, one-off vendors to the list, because it's going to be easier for the guards to do their job if they're not having to make phone calls every time. I'm guilty of it sometimes, but I think that kind of the community, if we can do a better job of that, they can do a better job of doing what they need to do. So that wasn't, but I kind of wanted, you know, just because the guard gate's there doesn't mean it's perfect. So like, just knowing that then helps me think, okay, then what can I do on my own at my house? So we added the bulbs up top and at the bottom. I've got exterior lights on timers, so at night there's more lights. We're adding a couple 360 cameras. Oh, and when we're gone, I had this aha moment last night. I think I know why we got picked. We were gone. It was Wednesday. Wednesday is trash day. Do you know who didn't have trash cans out in front of her house? It was us. So when they were driving around the neighborhood, oh, they don't have trash cans. Let's just watch for 10 minutes and see if we see anything, and they didn't. So now when we're gone, our gardener, I'll have him take the trash cans out Tuesday, and then I'm going to pay him an extra $20 to come back on Wednesday and bring them in, because I can't ask Santaluz to do that every time that I'm gone. We also started working with a property management company, the premier service thing that Santaluz put out. We're going to use them for when we're gone, mostly for maintenance kind of checks and all. But I mean, I don't want them to stumble upon a robbery 2 weeks after it happened. I want to know that it happened, and I want that call going to the police. We did also install a decoy safe, but there's a safe specialist to talk about that. So I think that's my, sure.
Where are you located,
Oh,
basically?
oh, sure.
Are you on a canyon?
Yeah. So we're on Sandero to Alba. So if you're looking at the top of the driving range, it's around the left. We can see out, like I can see 4S and all that stuff, but they came in a side door visible from the street. Sure. You.
First of all, thank you for sharing
Sure.
your story. It's very insightful. It's difficult for you to do it, and I appreciate you doing it. So when they came in, you had alarms going, making sound for 11 minutes before they departed.
Oh, I left out a key part and a key learning. I'm not sure if the sound kept going. I'm not sure that our neighbors can hear it actually, because they didn't, so I kind of want to test that. They quickly figured out where our security closet is. They went in and they bashed and smashed it, attempting to cut our internet. Our cameras are hardwired, and our security company was able to extract it off of our NVR, which is the video recording thing. So they killed our internet, so our front doorbell camera didn't capture them, but our hardwired cameras stayed on. So you bet I now have a lock on the outside of my AV closet. So it's not just an easy way to open it and just go in there and smash the stuff. They'd have to first break the lock. But, so I'm not sure if when they cut everything off, if the sound stops. But they don't seem to care. There's an alarm system in place. I care, and I know that what's happening.
That was my question. Did you have an audible alarm?
Mm-hmm.
That was the question I had.
Yes, but either my neighbor had already left on his errand, or wait, do you know, was it going when you got there?
I don't recall, and I didn't show up on scene that day, that was not thrown.
Okay, you're right.
But I don't know if it was audible, and since they did tamper with the, wires and cut it out, I think it
Yeah.
was after the fact, right? We recovered the information, the video footage, but the alarm itself, I think, was disabled.
I think they probably did cut the sound.
Yeah, I don't think there was a sound.
Okay.
Did it have sound inside or just from the outside?
It's inside. I've personally never been outside when we were testing it. But now I'm adding that to my list. I'm glad my sister wasn't home, but I think if she had been, they probably wouldn't have broken in. So my trash cans will be outside on every Wednesday. Hi, sure.
Hi, I'm so sorry what happened with Mr. Kelly. We were thinking, about, because we have, people that this has happened to as well. I think it's better with your alarm system, always call the police first, and then your security company second. So it saves time, you know what I'm saying? You know how.
Yeah.
You called your security company first and then the.
No, they called me and they said, I'd like to validate, is this an emergency? And I said, definitely. So they put me on hold, then they called the police.
So it's best if you have instructions to your security company, we've been brainstorming, call police first, and then call you second, to save time, I'm talking about time, right? Because they called you first, and then they called the police second, correct?
That's an option, I'm just not sure.
But see what I'm saying about time?
Yeah, okay, I was like, okay. But had I not had my phone right in front of my face, had I not picked up that call, they would have sent the police by default. So I have it set that way because I don't always have my phone on me. All right. Oh.
I have one quick question, not necessarily for you, but, we're contrasting your experience where somebody drives in the neighborhood, there was a failure at the front gate, you get it. And then the more recent incident, somebody walked from outside the community on an access road, they got visibility into the many homes that sit on the periphery of the community, and they break the window and they're in and out. So, these are two kind of different access avenues. I'm wondering from our police captain, what percentage of these people want to drive in and drive out? I mean, nobody's going to lug a safe, like pull it down the street, right? So you're going to have a car or a van to access the community. What percentage are driving through neighborhoods such as this where there is a gated community with a guard gate compared to people walking in from the periphery? And if it's a high percentage of, these people driving.
Thank you. What are we doing at our front gate? This is more copier. Like, are we getting pictures of people when they say, I'm here to see Steve?
Well, not pictures of people, but Joe's gonna address that here in terms of what we're doing to capture more data from the gate.
Yeah, I just wonder if I'm gonna come in and steal from somebody's home, and I've got a security camera as I'm saying, I'm here to see the Kirsches, and I see this big old camera looking at me, I'm gonna go, wow, I am just all over this, not just the car that I stole or, the cell phone that I throw in the trash, it's somebody that.
We're gonna be getting to that.
Okay.
Okay. Next up, I do want to have, Steve's going to come up and talk for a few minutes. He's the latest burglary, and he's going to share his thoughts as well. I'll be brief.
I think our experience was a little bit different. We arranged to have a dinner with our new next door neighbors and went to the bistro on a Sunday evening for 2 hours. And during that time, we had a break-in. It's not normal for us to leave on a Sunday to go out to dinner, so it was an unusual thing for us, so it wasn't any routine. But we felt there must have been some sort of surveillance that they knew we were gone. When we returned, we found that our master bedroom French door was smashed. And ironically, we left another door in the bath open, unlocked. And they didn't even go and check any of their doors. They had their MO on how to get in. They smashed the glass. They did not open the door, as far as I know. I mean, it was locked when we got there. And just a big hole that they just walked right through into our home. They were only interested in, we believe, in just finding jewelry within the house, probably focusing on finding a safe. And I guess, as the captain explained to us, probably the group that hit us was a little more sophisticated maybe than some of the other groups. They ransacked the house a bit, opening drawers, throwing things out, probably looking for hidden jewelry until they found our safe. And they didn't attempt to steal the safe. They brought with them some sort of hydraulic vice tool that pried the safe open. I think, did you, yeah, you brought the picture of it. It's hard to see in the picture here, but it's a case-hardened safe, probably weighs between 300 and 400 pounds. Stands about 3 feet tall, about 2 feet by 2 feet, and had case-hardened pegs that, of course, were controlled to open the safe. And they were able just to bend the hell out of it and pry the door open. They probably were able to do that in a matter of minutes with the tool that they brought, probably just in a backpack. So these kinds of tools are very small, very powerful, and from our experience, I don't think a safe is that good a protection. Unfortunately, we did have some of my wife's folks sitting here, jewelry, pretty much everything in the safe, things that were handed down from our grandparents and parents, and that was kind of the hard things to lose. But, c'est la vie, we can't turn the tides back. But I guess, one other point is, and I think the captain also mentioned this, that they entered our property by jumping over our back gate, and we border the limits of Santaluz up to open space, Black Mountain open space behind us. And it's a short walk, maybe, at a slow pace, less than 10 minutes from the parking lot in that park behind us. They chose to break in on a Sunday, and Sunday is the only day of the week that park is totally unused. The lights are shut down, and nobody is in the parking lot. So I think there was probably, that wasn't a random event, that it was on a Sunday. In order to be brief here, I thought that I would just express one opinion. Almost everything I was going to say about what we could do to try to protect ourselves has been mentioned. But one thing that I want to emphasize is that, and maybe some of you, like Hope and I, we feel we had this false sense of security in our home. Up to that point, we felt Santaluz is the safest place you could possibly live here in San Diego. It was wonderful, and I'm not saying that it isn't, but I think we did have a bit of a false sense. And I think one thing that we can do here as a community is to team with the security company that we have here. I don't think we can expect them to protect us, 100% protect us. They do what they can. But as it was mentioned, I think we need to have some sort of neighborhood watch or akin to a neighborhood watch that we could interact and have a partners with the security that we hire here. Perhaps we could have some system set up where we can contact them, but just as important, we need to understand that they do take some action and that we get feedback from that action, which will make us feel more secure that our input to them actually was operated on. So maybe that's something that we can work on as a community. Maybe we can establish some sort of way that we can text security if we think something going on or we notice something in the neighborhood, some cars parked for a very long time, you know, anything that might look suspicious, and then ask of security if we can. You know, I don't know exactly what we've hired them to do. This may be something in addition, but to give us feedback on what action they did take. And then we can use that as our learning experience. So with that, yeah, question?
Do you have an alarm on going off and on?
No, we do have an alarm in our home, and we actually never used it. We didn't feel like we needed it.
Lights going off and on?
We do, yes. And I think that's a very important part. We do have a Lutron system that we can program, and we have, to turn lights on and off whether we're there or not. We also have electronic blinds that go up and down depending on sunset and so forth.
So
I think,
you have that going?
yes, all that was going.
All that was happening? So it
Yes,
looked
all
like
that was
someone
happening.
there. You would think it looked like someone was there.
Yes, though, and we never do this, but for some reason we decided to hit the goodbye button that evening when we left, which actually turns all the lights off in the house. Normally we don't do that. I don't know if that had something to do with it or not, but that we made that mistake that evening. Yes, Gianni.
So something that we just set up at our home the last couple of weeks that we functioning. So if someone had broken into your home and you actually from your phone can program your Lutron and turn that mode on, plus turn the alarm on, it creates quite a distraction. It's really distracting too. We tested it, we call it the panic button, but it literally just has all the lights going, 5-second interval, like all throughout the home. And you can see it from we even walk down the street to look, you can look and say there's something wrong with that home because those lights are not, you know, because the ones outside or even on the pattern too, not just the ones inside, but all the exterior lights. So just something, you have a Lutron that can be easily done with a simple program.
So we thought you were just having a party.
Bring it by then.
Gary.
Steve, you mentioned a couple of things that I thought were interesting when we were talking. Maybe you could just mention a bit the idea of a safe as the version of time.
Yeah.
And what rooms they hit in your house and what rooms they did not.
Yes, okay, thank you for reminding me of that, Gary. I think maybe that is some valuable information to use. So I think there are two aspects to this. One is trying to stop these people from breaking in, these thieves. But the other thing is to have some way to catch them. So we've already talked about quick response. If we can interact with the police and notify them as soon as we're aware something's in our house, that would be great. So perhaps one way to slow them down just a tad would be, I would encourage you to have a safe. Don't put anything in it, but have a safe, and they will be spending time. They will be spending time trying to break into it. Now, it's interesting, of the areas where they did not go, and places that they didn't look for jewelry, and we can tell because they left drawers open and doors open and threw things out of cupboards. But one place they didn't go was the laundry room. I guess people typically don't hide their jewelry there. And the other place was the pantry. And I know that there are products out there, like you can buy a Campbell soup can, put it on your shelf and put things in it, you know, as long as you don't open that can for dinner one night. But by having a safe, maybe it does slow them down, and maybe the captain can comment on this. And if you have some way of having motion detectors in your home, you can react quickly, maybe if it alerts you on your smartphone, and we can contact them. And that would give them a better chance of trying to catch these guys. They're, as he said, very, very tough to catch.
Thanks, Steve.
Hi, Barry.
Can I comment on this, please? It's important.
Yeah, you can comment. I'm going to give the microphone to Barry Mogul. I don't know. Barry's been here since day one. Barry's specialty is safes. I mean, he's retired, but he has been doing safes for 40 some odd years. Major safes, and he can kind of tell you a little bit about what to do and what not to do. But he's going to make a comment on this particular safe. And he did say that if anyone wants any information or would like to talk to him personally, he's not selling anything. He can really give you an idea of what you might want to use and what you might not want to use.
This safe is the wrong safe for the application that Mr. and Mrs. Kirsch wanted to use it for. The safe has little feet on it. It has, I can tell by the labels on the inside, that it probably contains a fire label and a residential security label. A residential security label means that it is nothing. It's got less than a 16th inch of steel, and the rest is insulation in the walls. If you look at the bolt, you're looking at one little bolt on the bottom. It's probably a ½ an inch in diameter. None on the rest of the bottom. I can't see what's on the top, and I can't see what's on the side. But if you buy a regular burglary-resistant safe that sits flat on the floor, the bolts are generally 1 3/4 inches in diameter. They are three-way moving bolt work. The top, the bottom, and the door, inside and outside. Whoever sold this safe to Mr. Kirsch didn't bother to ask him what he was using it for. When you go to buy a safe, when someone called me to buy a safe, I would go to their home, and the first thing I would ask them is, what do you want the safe to do? And if they tell me, well, I have a lot of papers and so forth and documents, I tell them you don't need a safe. You need an insulated filing cabinet or a fire-resistant safe. You don't need a burglary-resistant safe. Burglary-resistant safes are tested by the UL. And the UL labels that are affixed to the safe are predicated upon the projected value that is being stored in the safe, regardless of the size of the safe. So if you have between $85,000 and $100,000 in content, in negotiable content, that has a particular label. And they go up from there, higher and higher and higher, depending upon the value. So many times, people go to buy a safe, and the person who's selling the safe doesn't bother to ask them, what do you want the safe to do? They want to make a sale. And so often, people are relying on the integrity and the knowledge of the person who's selling the safe, and they're getting the sizzle and not getting the fat. And this happens so often when people want to buy a safe for a home, because this safe probably was $500-600. To buy a burglary-resistant safe that will give you the proper protection, you're probably going to need to spend between $3,000, $4,000 to $5,000 at minimum to give you the protection that you need. Or you can keep it in the safe deposit box. But don't buy something like this. Really, it's important. You know, I sold safes for 43 years all over the country. I had chain accounts. I did the work for Chanel all over the country and other large jewelry companies. I'm not in the business anymore. I retired, but I would be glad to pass on my information. I would be glad to help you, to meet with you at your home, talk about what your needs are, what you think you need, where you want to put it, because floor loading is also another big issue. In a multi-story home, People say, oh, I want it in my bedroom that's upstairs. Well, people don't think about how are you going to get the safe up there, the live load, and then where it's going to sit in the dead load, up on the second floor. And more often than not, the floors are not designed to carry the weight. You don't want to put a safe in a garage. So many people leave their garage doors open all day long, and everybody's riding by looking at it. So you really need to think about what you want to use, what you want it to do, and where you want to put it. And I know that the wives like to have the jewelry near where they're getting dressed, but sometimes it just isn't practical. Back east, I had a safe in our cedar closet at the other end of our home, and my wife would send me to the other end of the home to the safe and get the jewelry. And secondly, how many times do you come home in the evening and the wife takes off her jewelry and she puts it on the dresser? And then it sits there for a day or two or three before putting it away. If you're going to have a safe, use it. Take the jewelry out, wear it, and put it back. And I'm available to help anybody. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Gary. In your opinion, would the tool that they use to open that safe, would it have been effective against a?
No, absolutely not. Unequivocally, no. This safe could have been opened up with a heavy crowbar. A crowbar. I don't know what tool they used, but this was a joke. They could have carried it out. They didn't have to do what they did. It really offered no protection whatsoever. The axiom is you don't put anything negotiable in a fire-resistant safe. And if you go online, I urge you to do this, go online tonight and look up the information on a residential security container and see what it says about it. It's a joke. But people sell them. The safes are inexpensive. You think you're getting something, and you're not. That's it. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Barry. That was great information. If anyone's really interested, I think, why don't you just give your number or text or email Claudia, and maybe she can use it.
I'd be happy to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a comment. My name's Dave Berrigan. I've only been in the community a couple of years. I'm a retired Marine Sergeant Major. I've worked at American embassies all over the world in securing those facilities. And I'm telling you, we're talking about a lot of great things about how to harden our homes. But my question is, what are we doing about the perimeter and getting deterrent so nobody comes in? If we talk about these high-level South American gangs, the reason they're hitting homes is probably because they're surveilling. So if we have what I love, the neighborhood watch idea, I think we should have one. And two, within our security, and I don't know if it's a possibility, but I ride mountain bikes all the time, and there's a trail that surrounds our entire community. Can we patrol that? And it's just a deterrent. Like, we don't want to catch people. We want to deter them from coming into Santaluz. We catch them,
We're going to
well,
talk
that's a
about
different story.
deterrent.
That's with the law enforcement.
We're going to talk about deterrent.
Okay, well, there you go. If you need my help, I am absolutely going to help you. And if you need somebody to help do neighborhood watch, and if you catch them, call me.
Good on.
Love our military.
Go ahead.
I go to Fairbanks. I have to show my driver's license and a photograph is taken of that. That's not done here at all. Fairbanks and the farms. And I mean, those are places I frequent, so, and that is done. From my identification. We don't do that. No. Why is that? Why is that?
Well, we rely, do you want us to do that to every one of your homes?
Yeah.
Anyone coming in? So when you have a guest and you're having a party, you would like every party person to come to the gate and show your ID and have us make a copy of it.
If someone's been until traffic starts backing up on the field just there, and that's dangerous, because I agree with what you're saying, but I don't know how you implement it, because people going 55 miles an hour, and when you see it, Southgate, sometimes the traffic backed up onto the Belser, That's not a good situation.
You can get a quick scanner though. You don't have to actually take a picture, you just get a capture
It's a
scan.
very quick scan.
Yeah, quick scan, it's not, they're not,
But they feed it through a machine?
well, there's different, I don't know if it's.
So, military does it today. I go on Myanmar, once.
They just scan it like
And they
this.
understand.
They just
Let me tell you
scan
something,
it.
the line at those gates is a mile long. So, to your point, it's a safety issue. If we talk to the city, they don't want us to put a separate turn lane in there. You have to, it's very dangerous. As a resident, I can't get in. These were blocked by all the subcontractors coming in. It's dangerous. I agree, it'd be great if we could do that. There is something I'm going to talk about in my presentation where you can send a QR code. I don't play my presentation already. But we're looking at a QR code that you can send your guest, that identifies your guest, and will have it on his phone. Here's my QR code. So you identify them, we scan it, we know it's sent. That's an alternative. That's fast, and that's fast.
Everyone's saying, trying to say we need another layer of security to identify the individual and have to know that we are checking
Yeah.
information actually. Right.
I think we could get that a different way. Same.
I think that's a great idea, but are these South American gangs coming through the front gates?
There's something else we're going to do about that.
Okay.
Yes.
So we need to move on. So let's move on. Let's kind of move on.
You're right.
Okay?
You're right.
I do want to point out that, we do have a lot of people that come in on a regular basis. These are the numbers right now. Just in last year, we had 1,255,000 cars come through that entered the community. We're getting 3,400 a day coming through. We issue 236 passes per day. That was 86,000 passes last year. That's what we had to give each person, a pass that came in that you wanted as a guest. And we issued 44,789 guest passes and 32,900 vendor passes. There's a lot of activity at those gates. So we are looking at ways to streamline the process. We'll go through a little bit of that in just a moment, but I just wanted to share some of the statistics, going through those gates. With that, I'm going to invite Matt Kruger to come up. Matt is with Ranch and Coast. He owns the Ranch and Coast group. He's going to talk about security systems, alarm systems, and give us some good information.
Thanks, Joe. So one of the things I want to start off by saying is you guys have a lot of resources and you have a lot of people that are willing to help. I think it's great that you guys are doing these meetings. I think it helps a lot. The one thing that I hear in all the meetings I go to is, talk to your neighbors, trust your neighbors, and help each other out. That's really the way we're going to get through this rash of burglaries that's been going on for the past couple of years. Our business and my entire industry is inundated with people putting in security systems. We're very, very busy. So I know we're going really late tonight, but quick background. I've been in the business for 23 years. I'm the president of the San Diego Security Association, vice president of the California Alarm Association, and I do this because I love this business. Helping people protect their homes. I love going to people's houses and consulting with them, helping them with what they need, what they want, and my philosophy is the most protection with the least amount of equipment because it all has some sort of maintenance to it. So with that, the biggest thing is once you have a security system in your house, you have to use it. With that, you have to know how to use it and test it. So know what your code is, arm, disarm. The last couple of years, we've had a lot of people, just us and my fellow companies, asking those questions, how to use it, and us going and training, fixing the alarm, make sure it works. The next thing is update who's going to be called when the alarm goes off. And that's the thing to answer your question of who doesn't call when it goes off. There are rules around that, and 97% of all alarms are false. So it has to go to the homeowner. We've tried, as an industry, a lot of different things. Javier pointed out, at Fairbanks and here, we've had it go directly to the guards first. And the first thing they do is call the homeowner and see if they did a false alarm. So the homeowner has to tell us, as our central station, it calls, the alarm goes off and calls us, front door, there's an alarm. Oh, that was me, I opened the front door, an accident. Our business is changing and adding technology to make that faster and allow you to cancel false alarms faster. Because if we don't, as a community, as an alarm user myself, the police won't show up. And so we have to have that step in there. It does slow it down a little bit, but it also now makes it go faster because one of our customers got broken into about 6 weeks ago now. His alarm went off after they walked in through a motion detector, loud siren. They get the alarm, they dispatched, San Diego PD's going there. The neighbor sees two guys run out of the house, calls PD, and so it speeds it up. So these are the steps that, as an industry, the security business in general is trying to make it go faster, make it better. We work every day with law enforcement all around the country on code enforcement and procedures on how to make this stuff happen quickly. So, just trying to keep myself on track here. Glass break, shock sensors, motion detectors, loud sirens. A couple things I want to address. The professional Chileans seem to be getting more advanced. They're learning how to be better and better. Right behind them are these copycat people that are sloppy. And so we're all dealing with different things. I think one of the good things on all this is it seems to be nonviolent at this point. So they're making sure people are gone. That's probably the only silver lining in the whole thing. But we're seeing different tools being used to break in. Some of them have, it looks like a pin. We've seen some video where they pop and it sounds like a real loud pop on the glass versus throwing something in. Detective Bill showed me some pictures of where they're still breaking stuff and the glass break is effective. So there's, depending on your house, who it is that's breaking in, the different detectors and sensors are doing their jobs differently. For example, last year the news said everybody needs glass break detection. We sold thousands of them. And now they're trying to get around that, some of the more professional ones. But also people are putting up blackout curtains and curtains in front of it that also makes them less effective. So it's one of the things I talk to people when I'm in their house, like, okay, do you normally keep your blinds closed or no? So that kind of determines what product we use. The motion detectors are great because you see, as she said about, you could see everywhere they went by the sensors. If you have enough sensors in your house, you're going to see that. You're going to know that, hey, there is somebody in my house that is a problem. It's not a false alarm. In the last year and a half, we've had 2 of our customers regret canceling what they thought was a false alarm because their alarm went off and it was a motion detector and they said, no, it's a false alarm. 7 times later, they finally called the police and said, yeah, I think somebody's in my house. Yeah, sure enough, they were. So we're like, one of the things we're doing is recommending a motion detector in the master bedroom and one by the closet. You get 2 hits. You know somebody's in your house. It's not supposed to be. I think most people are at a heightened awareness now that they're going to dispatch the police on the first one now. So there's, the awareness is great. It's really good. It's good that you're here. Tell your neighbors too. Make sure they know what's going on. It blows me away how many people that we get calls from that need a security system just for insurance, and they live within 3 miles of here, and they go, there's no crime, there's no problem, I was just only doing this for my insurance, and they don't know what's going on. So we need to tell our friends, our neighbors, to be on the lookout for these suspicious people, and call PD. They want to know. That's the message they're putting out there. So there's a lot of different things you get into. The sound. It seems to be a good deterrent, but they know that it takes about a minute to get somebody to make a decision on if they're going to dispatch, call the police. They come, if it's 10 minutes, they get in and out of there in 4 to 6 minutes, they can do a lot of damage. They're going through the master bedroom closet, probably the master bedroom, then the office, and then if there's no alarm going off, then they're going to the other places in the house. So we're doing a lot of loud sirens, we're doing a secondary siren. It's a double-edged sword. Do you want your neighbor's loud siren going off all the time accidentally? No. Not everybody's as responsible as they need to be. Some people are on vacation and it goes off and they can't turn it off. So we recommend, somewhere near the master bedroom, loud siren so the burglar knows that it's there, and then something like the garage where it's going to echo so the neighbors could hear it very distinctly, but it's not going to be a nuisance because we have to pay attention to that. By design, they're scheduled to go off after 4 minutes. They blare for 4 minutes, they shut off. If the alarm system gets triggered again, it's going to go off for another 4 minutes. So if somebody disarms their system because they knew that the alarm went off, they disarm it, now that siren's going to shut off. So those are a little bit of information for you. I know they try to get the news involved, build the awareness, it's great. I hear some embellishment from newscasters on what to do. So, and some of the stories, I hear all kinds of things that they're using jammers to deter and defeat security equipment. I've been in the design of this stuff. There are all kinds of foolproof things in our systems that make them very difficult to defeat. They're not impossible to defeat, but they are, they're not easy. So there's different things that if you smash a security system, there's already a signal being sent to the monitoring station. If they don't get a good disarm within the countdown timer, they're going to automatically dispatch because they feel that something's been wrong. There's some sort of sabotage. But there's people that try and smash it. Most of the professional people, burglars, in the houses I've been in, haven't touched the alarm system, they just leave. So I do free consultation, go do security review for our customers and non-customers. One of our new customers recommended a neighbor who has an alarm company, who I'm friends with. I did a security assessment for them. It's just what we do. Most of the smaller alarm companies in town are pretty consultative. We like to work with homeowners, so the smaller, people that own it versus corporations, you're going to get a different level of service. So, but I know everybody kind of has their personal preference on who they use, but there's a lot of really good alarm companies in San Diego. We try really hard to be good, so obviously I think I'm a good company. So I could go on and on. Cameras, there's thousands of camera options out there. Ring is by far the most popular, the easiest, most convenient. You see tons of video online of burglars or suspicious people walking up to a house. A Ring camera throws that light on them. You can make a noise. They know they're on camera. The big key is it sends a notification to the phone. Most burglars know that that's what's going on. That's the key, is you notify. And with that, I think that to kind of wrap things up, it's, it's your house. You have to be responsible, and, as homeowners, we have to make sure that, if there's a notification on my phone, I get lots of them, a lot of them, but I still look. And you have to pay attention, whether you're at dinner or not. You gotta know what's going on out there and pay some sort of attention to it. So I'll be staying around afterwards. If you guys have any questions, you guys can come ask me. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next up, we do have an ad hoc safety committee that's run by Alan, who's our chairman. And I think I'm just going to turn this over to you. I think we're running a little late, so we'll try to be as quick as possible.
By the way, this was put on by your safety committee, because I think when we had these issues going on in our neighborhood, everybody wanted to know what was happening, so we figured, well, perfect time to exchange information. Let me show of hands. Would people like to see more of these kinds of meetings on home safety, security? Okay. The mission of the safety committee, when we first started, it was probably about 9 months ago or so, Joe. And at that time, I was just looking at traffic safety. Home security was not even on the radar. And then the Littletons had your home broken into. My wife said, hey, we need a Nest doorbell. We put a Nest doorbell on. We put cameras in the back. So, we took responsibility. If people were coming in the backyard, we could see them. My iPhone watch, my phone, my iPad, I get alerts. No matter where I am in the world, it'll show me, what's going on in my yard. We talked about external patrol. I'm sure Javier can talk a little more about that. I'll tell you a little story. My wife was walking our dog next door, the Verrazano neighborhood. And one of the guys had his car broken into. Trunk was open, toolbox was taken out, but he had a little detector, tracer, GPS tracer on his toolbox. And guess where they took the toolbox? Black Mountain Park, right behind us. And guess we're patrolling now? Black Mountain Park. So we put patrols now outside the neighborhood, not just in the neighborhood, to see what's going on in the peripheral. And we have some other opportunities I can't talk about right now because we haven't solidified it yet in terms of more surveillance in those vulnerable areas that you're talking about. The other thing we put in place, and City of Tulsa, Oklahoma has these, Birmingham, Alabama has these, they're called flock cameras. We just ordered 5 cameras, they'll be on each gate. And as a car comes in, it'll it'll take a picture of the license plate, it's tied to the national database. The San Diego Police Department will also be tied into our camera system, and it'll tell you if your license plate was stolen, the car was stolen, or if Javier gets a call from one of the neighbors and say, hey, we've got a blue, sedan parked in front of our house, what's going on? He can immediately go type in blue sedan. It'll show you every blue sedan for that day, or that week, or that month that came in the neighborhood. It'll tell you the model, the license plate. He goes out there in 2 seconds, we can check it out. In the case of Mr. Littleton, when your car, when the people stole from your home, left, it took him about maybe 4 hours to go through our video. We can now do that in seconds. So that'll be installed here very shortly.
All right, John, if I could just add one thing. If you are going to report a car, always remember the license plate as much as you can. Even a partial plate will help us find that. If you say blue sedan and I'm scrubbing multiple cameras for hours and hours looking for a blue sedan, it's going to be tough. When you get that license plate, I can query our system and I can see, okay, it's a vendor, it's a guest, it's somebody, it's a lot faster.
The flock camera will have you, that'll be instantaneous now with these other camera systems in place. The other thing we just mentioned briefly, I think someone was saying, gee, it'd be nice if we could show a picture ID and so forth. We're going to have a system set up where you'll be able to send to your guest or your subcontractor a QR code. You identified that guy as your guy. When he comes to the gate, he'll have his phone. That phone will be scanned with that QR code guy so we know it's him. Otherwise, if you do the face, I can tell you from Miramar, it's a nightmare trying to get in that gate. Yes, sir.
I would imagine, I don't know statistics for this, but it's people claiming to be Amazon and it's claiming to be Uber and it's things like that. So the deterrent value of what was suggested before, of taking somebody's ID and even if they just have to hold it in front of a video camera or something else like that, the deterrent value of that, knowing that they are lying, but they've had to give up some information and they've got it their face, I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, good point, good point. Yes,
The New York State code, will that be in effect for just that day?
I'm sorry, say it again?
That code, will it just be in effect for the day?
The code?
The QR
Well,
code.
you can set the QR
It
code
should be a
for,
matter, just like you do the pass now.
Yeah.
If you want them to have access for one day, or if you want them to have access for 2 days. So you'll be able to put those parameters in, and we'll make it pass out, however long you determine. But for guest passes, 2 weeks is the cutoff.
yeah, it's no different than what you did today, just now you gotta find the code. Anything else, Gretchen? Anything else? So, like to see these every month? 6 weeks?
Thank you.
Thank you. So next up, we're just about over here. We're going to bring Javier up. He's just going to give us a couple safety reminders, and with that, we'll close out the evening.
Good evening, everybody, and I have some rebuttals. I will have to cover a few things that weren't on here, but Sergeant Major, did he leave? Oh, he's still here. So, Sergeant Major, in terms of burglary deterrents, so since the last one at the Littleton residence, we've been proactive on the perimeter big time, right? More patrols, less time inside, more patrols on the perimeter. We're lighting up the canyons. We're lighting up those open areas. We're spending time at our unmanned gates. Obviously, it's 4,000 acres. You know, topography doesn't allow for us to be on every part of the perimeter because we can't access areas like behind Mr. Kirsch's house. There's really no way to get there. There are trails, turning over vehicles. There's also considerations that as a company, we can't have our people driving in certain areas. So, but we are extensively proactive on the perimeter in efforts to deter, right? Just like you said, it's not about catching these guys. It's about making sure that they're looking at us and saying, you know what, let's go to the next community because these guys are too proactive. You know, that looks like a hardened target. Let's go somewhere else.
Has there been any discussion about the neighborhood watch in conjunction with what you all are providing? And then
We can definitely, and I think with Captain Del Toro's guidance, because I know it's sponsored by the police department, kind of try and start that in the safety committee, an overall community neighborhood watch.
Yeah, and then put them in high visibility shirts. I mean, something that is a deterrent. We're not trying to hide. We want them to see us. And then work in conjunction with your security force and then law enforcement if we have to. You know, I mean, we're talking a lot of great things for our homes, but the fact is we do live in a gated community and it's unfortunate what happened that somebody came in and blew the gate basically, but I'm sure that that's never going to happen again, right?
Let's hope not.
So let's just go on to the assumption that you guys are going to harden our entry points or all of our avenues of approach. And then it's up to us as community members to guard our own communities.
And your own individual homes as well.
I mean, and then harden your homes. You talked about stage. You heard some great ideas about film and lighting and motion detectors and things, not just in front of your house, but behind your home, especially if you're near a green belt. And that's where I think the community can step up. And, you know, I know not everybody wants to walk around at night, but why not?
I'll be right with you guys with questions. So
we can finish at my house, it'll be cocktail hour.
So there was something that I found kind of amusing the other day. I sent it to Joe and Tori. It was a meme, and it was a jar full of pennies. It was about a quarter of the way full, and it said, security budget before an incident. And then the other jar was full, and it said security budget after an incident, right? So this is after an incident, and we're all on the topic, you know. And then at some point, when we're doing some of these things, or we're stopping everybody and getting those driver's license, and you get that complacency, oh, well, we haven't had a burglar in about 6 months. Then everybody starts, well, you didn't let my person go, they didn't have their driver's license on them, or they didn't want to show their driver's license. But there's definitely prudent things that we can have control of. One of the things is being the flock camera readers at the gates, right? Yes, we have cameras at the gates. A lot of the questions that I got were, well, do you track license plates? Well, they're cameras, and if I get a good enough visual, I can see the license plate number, but no, I can't punch in a license plate and it's going to pop up. I have to, you know, purge and scrub hours and hours of video, especially if we don't know when they enter the community, to try and find a blue sedan, and then if I do, how many blue sedans actually entered? So it's not very conclusive. So one of the things we're doing is adding these systems that are gonna help harden our gates and make it a lot more effective and a lot more of a deterrent. They come with signs, we're gonna advertise that, hey, your license plates are being captured, your information's being put into a database.
Yeah, one more thing I didn't mention, we no longer have Sunday open houses. Notice that, but one of the comments we got, seriously, is that people can come in here from outside, anybody can case out the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That stopped about 3 weeks ago, Joe?
Right after, the following Sunday, there was no more open houses.
No, the open houses you can, but it's by the money only.
They have to sign and flag, but it can't,
But that was a step we took immediately after that last one, that there would be no more open entry, because before you had to just say, I'm going on an open house, we'd log you in and we'd let you in. Okay, so moving on. So we are taking steps, go ahead.
Is the 17th still not manned at night?
That's correct. From 10 to 6 a.m., 7 days a week. So, you know, the proof is in the pudding. We haven't had any issues at the South Gate, right? There's been no, initially, when people weren't prepared for that, we were watching them on camera, kind of trying to manually lift it and go around, and then they get stuck at the wooden gate, because if you don't properly trigger that gate arm, the wooden gate doesn't open, so then they'd be stuck, and then we'd have to go down there, move our truck, because if you've noticed, there's a truck there that creates a choke point. So they can't, unless somebody who's authorized comes in while they're stuck in there, then everything opens and they can come in, and generally, we'd be able to get there in time. So we are taking some actions, we are implementing some systems at our gates. We're in the process of discussing possibly deploying drones where we can, we're kind of far from that, but you know, we've started that discussion. We're working with the point of contact that Captain Del Toro gave us to try and implement that program, where one of my guys and Securitas is going to be offering a drone solution for our clients, where we can drive around to those vulnerable areas, put up a drone and do a 30-40 minute patrol and oversee those vulnerable areas with HD cameras and thermal cameras for night. Ms. Littleton mentioned something earlier that's very critical that would help us a lot. We get a lot of people that come in, they're not on the guest list, right? And I understand, I've spoken to people myself. Would you like to add well, no, I like you guys calling me so that I know that they showed up. But this, when you have 4 numbers on your call list, and when you're calling the first one and you don't answer, and you're calling the second and you don't answer, and you're calling the third and you don't answer, it creates that backup. And the mornings is very busy, and we do have to take note that once traffic starts backing into the Camino del Sur, that intersection at both gates has so many traffic accidents, and we're liable, right, if we're holding that up. So, we have to find a way to speed that process up. The others, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I've noticed that if you do put somebody on the gate, you still get notified with a text message that a pass was issued.
If you're set up, here's another thing. A gentleman just spoke to me. If you're set up in Dwelling Life properly, and if you're not set up in Dwelling Life properly, contact Claudia. She can help you get set up to where you can monitor all of that and get alerts on your phone when your guest has been processed to the gate and issued a pass. You can add your own guests. You can make them permanent. You can add vendors. And there's nothing more. There's a little brown icon that gets put next to every individual that you add. And I love it when somebody comes to the gate and they say, my name is so-and-so, I work for whatever, Coal-Pepper Plumbing. When you type in Coal-Pepper Plumbing, or you type in the name, there's a little brown icon that says the resident went into their app and they put them in, and they're in there, and there's no question, there's no phone calls, and we get them in and out in like 30 seconds. As opposed to somebody who's not on the list. And then we'll call, like, hey, you have so-and-so here? Absolutely, let them through. I was like, but they're not on the list.
We need to get the word out using the app, and that people will be notified when a pass is issued.
Well, and that reminds me, in terms of getting the word out, right? Who here has seen the tips? Ever since we had the Littleton incident, we sent out tips on what you can do to secure your homes. Seriously, raise your hands if you saw that.
right? It's only a handful, and this is the involved group, right? These are the people who show up day in and day out, you know, and you're always here and you're involved and you care about these things. There's probably 850 other households out there that, you know, we see it every day. A teenager pulls up and says, blah, 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 address, password is such and such. And I'm like, are you a resident? Yeah. What's your name? I look on a resident list. You're not a resident. And I called them like, hey, you got kids showing up here using your password. Yeah, just go ahead and let them through. The passwords are for your residents only. Don't worry, let them through. You know, you can only do so much in terms of that. There's a lot of that happens. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and number two, suspicious activity. Before our break-in, more than 20 of the neighbors saw suspicious activity, and nobody called you.
That is correct.
So.
It wasn't worthy of being called in until after the fact.
Right, but they were so suspicious, and all of us felt that way. I mean, they came to our doors with a brochure to sell something, not allowed in the community. Then they wore gloves while they were passing out brochures.
Mm-hmm.
Then one of the neighbors approached them, and they ran away instead of trying to promote their product. They drove down the street, and then they not only went to the front door, they went to the garage side and around. People saw them on their cameras. All this was suspicious, but not one neighbor called.
What was it?
Those are the solicitors.
We need neighborhood watch.
That was the solicitors that were on the street that day.
Yeah, we need a neighborhood watch. Because I saw them come to the door, and then the ring doorbell went off, somebody's motion at your door, and I looked out, and she had run out already. And then, when we came home,
We already know that they were residents.
more brochures. But when everybody looked at their cameras, they saw that these girls, there was two of them, and they came back at 5:35. We left at 10 to 6. At 5:55, they were on someone else's camera. They were the ones that were suspiciously watching over our house to see what we were doing.
Well, it seems to me that it's some opportunities for some best practices, because people have read the note that's gone out, so perhaps use it as a way to communicate these best practices, to say, hey, if you see anything like A, like B, like C, like D, call us. Because maybe that's people didn't realize what they were doing.
And we will keep reiterating that, because that's definitely, I mean, every meeting that we do, every security says, if you see something, report something. And I do want to say, we do also want to be judicious in the application of that reporting. 100%. When I saw that, I was like, okay, this is suspicious. Until we realized and we put the pieces together that, okay, the company that's being advertised is owned by somebody who lives in the community. We quickly looked up the Dwelling Live page. We realized that the vehicle that they were moving around in was also registered to them. I called them immediately. They said, yes, absolutely, that's us. I said, why'd you do X, Y, and Z? And they said, well, because we did this. Why are you wearing gloves? Because we touching a lot of doorknobs and there's a lot of germs. So everything, right? But it was suspicious, and we quickly removed that as a possibility. We communicated that to the police. We told them we have the footage if you want to look into them, but they were in no way, shape, or form involved or affiliated with the burglary.
But why was our neighbor in our community allowed to allow employees or his wife or whoever solicit with?
They're not allowed. They're not allowed. So if that would have been reported when it was when it was seen, we would have responded. We would have said, you cannot do this. Right? Normally, if it gets reported and there's a door knocker or there's a flyer, then they'll bring it to me and I'll call the company and I'll say, you can't do this. Obviously, they're long gone. But in that case, if we see them personally, then we could have identified them and we could have told them, hey, you can't solicit. In this case, when I spoke to them, they said, sorry, we didn't know you couldn't do this. We won't do it again. But there is no soliciting here. And we don't, they don't arrive at the gate and say, hey, we're here to solicit. You mind letting us in? Like to say that, no, that doesn't happen.
That's what we thought they came in on those.
Right, everybody thought they came in through the gate. That's not the case. They live within the community, they came from it. And I'm lucky I found that information quickly. Otherwise, I'd have been looking and scrubbing through hours and hours and hours of video footage to never find them, because they didn't come through the gate, they came from within. Okay, let's get to just the quick stuff. Okay, the alarm POC protocol. All right, it was common practice here before where security was the first call. I don't know where that came from, but just think about it. You're at home, there's an alarm that enunciates, we get called, not you, and then my guy starts walking around your house with a flashlight, and there's an alarm going off. I know it's California and not everybody's armed, but if you're armed, I'm not putting my guy in that situation. Just like was already stated, you should be the first call because you can quickly say, false alarm, I'm home, everything's okay, you give them your password, or you can immediately say, something's going on, then they call 911, then you call us. We shouldn't be the primary point of contact, you should be. What we do encourage is if you don't answer, and if we're the second or third point of contact, then we can respond, we can get there quicker than the PD can, and we can kind of, from a distance, assess what's going on. Because I can't also tell my guys, yeah, you gotta go in there and you gotta, from a distance, is there anything suspicious, is there anything? And if you do see something, they immediately call 911, and that's how we respond. I mentioned being judicious with the suspicious calls, all right? If something is suspicious, call it in, absolutely. Get a lot of calls, car, it's authorized, it's a guest, it's parked in front of my house, and I don't like that, so I have a suspicious car in front of my house. All right? My patrol gets pulled away from whatever he's got to do to go look at it. Yeah, it's registered to your neighbor. Sorry, in front of your house is the parking side of the street, so legally you can park there. So we get a lot of that. We have to live with it. But just, make sure that something's legitimately suspicious before we report it. Yes, ma'am.
Do you guys have that gate, the license plate thing in place? Someone
Then I could
say, this is the license of the car that's in front of my
Yes,
house.
then I can run that plate and I can immediately find out who it's registered to. Also, we can't release it. If you say, well, call me back and tell me who it is. I can't. I can tell you, it's, so-and-so or it's whoever. All right, so, as Joe mentioned earlier, 2,680 total incidents. Works out, I guess, roughly 7 to 8 per day. That doesn't mean that they happen consistently. Some Sundays we have 0. Some days we got 14, 15 calls, ranging from parking violations to snake removals, which were down in 2022, noise complaints, things of that nature. So we do, the main thing we do is try and deter, detect, find safety issues, and enforce the CCNRs. That's our main focus.
It's strange that there's so many people calling you about parking violations and they're not calling you about that. I got told to turn the lights off in the back of our house because they were too bright. I put them on a timer so they would come on. We're on the 18th. They're actually in code. They're not direct lights or anything else like that. Somebody taking the time to send a complaint in to me because I put the lights on to go on automatically. I think it's the same thing here. People need to understand what to call you about rather than just random stuff like, I don't like this car. If people care, they should be caring about things that may help this situation.
I couldn't agree more.
So if you
I couldn't agree more. It's just obviously,
so if you put around the hints and tips about if you see this, call this, if you see that, because maybe we can direct that to something more constructive.
We've spoken, right? Right? We did? You spoke on the phone? Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I wish it was, we can communicate, directly to everybody and everybody would get that, but it just doesn't happen that way. You don't know how many people I've said, well, you guys didn't tell us, it's gone out like 5 times, from the very first time that we had one. And, emails, phone calls directly. We hope that word of mouth catches on, but it doesn't necessarily always get there. Speed cameras. So they're out there. Be aware. I don't know if anybody's gotten a speeding citation lately, but please abide by the speed limit. Make sure your guests know to abide by the speed limit. Go to the next slide, Joe. For safety reasons, and I've given up on this one. I've given up on this one because, when I first got here, and that's 5 years ago already, I used to kind of think, hey, there's a DG walking path over here. People tend to speed. It's a lot safer for you. I get this dirty eye, or they just like, yeah, okay, and they just keep going straight down the street. So I've given up, but this is not safe. There's a lot of blind curves out there.
We got people on our cameras going 50, 60 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. We had the bicycle incident, the kid got, run over by a bicycle on the main street here. So please, keep these things in mind. Talk about other things that you can do. And we see cars coming in hot all the time to those resident gate readers, okay? But if you see a car that's there and it's not being let in, if you race in behind it and you trigger the gate arm, he's gonna get in, that's your read, and if you're lucky, you're gonna get through the gate arm. If not, it's gonna come down on you and it's gonna kick you out. And it happens in Delphina all the time. Well, my transponder went up, the person in front of me went through and I got stuck out. Yeah, because you triggered it, you let the unauthorized person in and you got stuck out. So be cognizant of who's there and if they're not getting in, and don't get close, wait. Then that way it doesn't open and they come through. Yes?
Line, people should sort of notice that doesn't trigger that person's stuck there.
We could put a line there, and I just wonder who would actually, heed the line.
I try to stay back, I know something's back, so when I see somebody, I'll stay back with that line, doesn't, let them in.
Yeah, but that seems simple enough, maybe, wait here. We can look into that. Yes, ma'am?
I've come back, but before, if somebody has gotten through, but I've often wondered, was there any technology that Santaluz had that would tell the guard at the gate that was just an unauthorized car that got through?
Unfortunately not. It doesn't, enunciate something like, oh, there was a double entry on one read or anything like that. And especially during the day, and, vehicles are coming and going, you can't always tell. It's hard to tell.
To use the flat read that can do that.
Someone
will have to write something, but you can use the flat read and do exactly what she's just saying.
Yeah, and in that case, in that case, if it was noted, right, I accidentally triggered, right, and it's just word of mouth, and we got to get everybody on the same page, but I triggered the gate arm, somebody who was there was let in, the license plate is such and such, I can easily now look it up. Obviously, they're not going to be registered because they didn't go through the proper channels, but at least we know what we were looking for. Yeah. Somebody else was talking about this. If you don't know, you do have access to your dwelling live accounts. Call Claudia. If she sets you up, get a username, get a password. You can go in there. You can purge your list. I see this all the time. You had a kitchen remodel 2 years ago and your vendor's still on your permanent list and they haven't worked there forever. You got an emergency note that belongs to an old resident or something like that. But you can go in there and you can make sure that it's the latest and greatest information and what we need to make sure that we're properly vetting your guests. Please, word of mouth. Let your neighbors know. You can get into Dwelling Live. You have access, and you wouldn't have to call the gate. You can just put them in yourselves, and that seems to be the quickest and more efficient way that helps us expedite your guests and your vendors in. We talked about this earlier. Don't give out your password. A lot of people coming in there that aren't residents who know the address and the password, and they give the name of a resident, and we don't know everybody's kids, but if they say, yeah, I'm so-and-so, this is my password, and you look at the resident list, and that's their name, you gotta let them in. Okay, pickleback for your dogs. I think everybody knows that. Be aware of wildlife, not just coyotes and snakes, but all kinds of wildlife. It's interesting, 2022 was a low. The year before we did almost 100 snakes. Last year we did only 25. That's odd. And there it is. Like it is on every town hall or every safety committee. Remember, if you see something, say something, and remember to be judicious with it. Not just like, it's parking for my house and I don't like it, so I'm gonna call it in as suspicious. We want to dedicate our resources to legitimate, possible threats or things of that nature. Any questions?
I got one.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned about your perimeter patrols. What are the frequency of those patrols and on a daily basis?
So the majority, we have 2 going on from 5 to 10 o'clock. So my swing shift guys that come in from 2 to 10, there's a patrol and there's a roaming patrol. They each are responsible for a burglary deterrence tour on the perimeter, and then there's an exterior tour where they go to each unmanned gate and they hold a presence there for about 10 minutes.
So on the perimeter, what are they driving? Are they
They're driving. So they're driving the perimeter. So we have a route and we try and vary it that goes along Camino del Sur, down San Diego, past the dog park, behind Delphina, Camino de la Luna. Oh, no, yeah, on the roads, on the roads.
So what about the trails, the actual?
We have no coverage of the trails. That's where we're trying to implement
That's what I
drones.
was referencing earlier, is a deterrent on the, we have a defensible space that we have to maintain for fire abatement. So
Mhm.
that can be utilized as the trail that we patrol.
I can't get my vehicles out there, and I can't have my drivers get out off the hardened surface.
Right, you can't have a vehicle, but you can have like an ATV or.
I don't see further liability where, further liability with our patrol officers and, getting them out there, getting them certified. We don't have the ATVs. But this is where we're looking at the drone solution, right? we're gonna go to those areas, we're gonna go airborne if we can get it off the ground and patrol and surveil those areas using the drone and using that technology.
Drones can be real estate. The terror value of a drone, I don't know if you get it, but it is obvious it's that. Whereas if somebody's on an electric bike or whatever it is, and they're going around and they've got security written on them, then, because drones are very small, you can't see them very that.
Well, plus, we're also not going with, say, a very tactical blacked out approach. We want it to be visible. We want it to flash and be heard and be
The
seen.
suggestion is there some form of physical presence with a person that they can go take an electric bike.
And I mean, look, not exactly on those areas that are not Santaluz property, but also from within. We are pulling up to those areas from within the community, and we're lighting them up with spotlights and trying to be completely obvious that we're there. Obviously, on a good day, I have 2 patrols. If there's a call out, I may have 1. You go, you light up an area, you're obvious that you've been there, and then they know you're turning around and you got to cover, 4,000 acres, that you're not coming back to that particular area for, multiple hours. So, but yes, I get it, I understand. Would we like to be on the perimeter? Sure. But how feasible is it from, our corporate standpoint and, the HOA? It'd be additional manning as well, right?
Well, we already know that they surveilled this couple's home. We already know that they jumped the back of their fence, which they come from an open area. So that open area was probably not something that has a blacktop anywhere near it. You would have done a patrol. So that's what I'm talking about. If you can secure the perimeter, and it shouldn't be that hard. Now, I understand additional manpower, I understand how there's probably liability because you're riding an ATV, but it's training for your officers. I mean, we do it all the time in the military, so it's not like it's a part.
Retired senior from the Air Force too. So we have certain
We know what we're
limitations.
talking about, but like that would be a deterrent. That with our neighborhood watch, I think would be a great deterrent. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that, right? More personnel, put them on the perimeter, that'd be great. It's just a matter of making it happen. Any other questions? Nope. I'll pass it on to Joe.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for all of you that have stayed behind. We really appreciate it. And thanks again to Captain Del Toro and Matt Kruger, Javier, I think Alan. You guys did a great job. Thank you very much. And Brianna, thank you. Steve, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Gary.